Hi guys, welcome to another video from Table Podcast. So today we are building the bottom bells for the Resurrectionists and more specifically for Seamus out of the Shadows of Redchapel box. So as well as the models, I have glue, clippers, scalpel, but you can use a hobby knife or an X-Acto knife. I'll also be using some super glue to tack the models to the bases so that I can paint them and then take them off the bases to rebase them how I want them to be based. So let's start off by starting to assemble these guys. Now, in terms of filming a video, these are actually easier than I have also done videos for Seamus, for Madam Sybil, and for the Copycat Killer. Just trim off these excess bits of sprue and then do them, clean up any mold lines. But that's 3 separate videos and 3 individual models, so there's been quite a lot of, and I'll leave this to dry and come back in those videos. For these, because I've got 3 of them, hopefully whilst one of the girls is drying I can be working on the other 2. So I'll be perfectly honest, the thing that first drew me to Seamus is the idea that you have a crew of basically undead hookers. I just think it's such a nice unique part of Malifaux. Sorry, that random noise you hear off camera is me blowing off the excess bits of plastic that I'm scraping off to get a clean model. I don't know if it's because you can also buy these models as a separate plastic kit, which I'm assuming is the same mould, which means that this mould is used more than the other 3, but there do seem to be more mould lines. So there we go, let's just check her. Yep, she fits quite nicely. I'm basically just there checking that I've taken the excess sprue off her feet so that she'll fit flat to the base. 1 small blob of super glue. Pop onto the base. I've only super glued the 1 foot. But there's too much glue there, so I'm just going to move her. This, I'm afraid, is a bit like watching paint dry, the fact that you are now going to have to watch me hold her for an amount of time. Oh, there we go. So she now needs to obviously set before I can do anything else to her. So we'll move on to our next girl. So this one we're going to have to do some assembly of the lower body before we can glue her down. I really do hope that you find these building videos useful, or if you don't find them useful per se, that you find them enjoyable enough to listen to in the background. Whilst you're painting and the like, just I would appreciate it if you could leave a comment and let me know what you think of them, to know whether or not it's worth continuing as I build the rest of my crew to do the building videos. There are also hopefully going to be, well, I say hopefully, unless something goes horribly wrong or I get far too excited and carried away and just paint them. I'm also going to be recording painting videos of these guys, so you can see how I paint them up. So you can hopefully see me build, paint, and then with some battle reports play the army. Sorry, crew. I need to get out of the habit of saying army, as a group of underhookers is definitely not anyone's definition of a army. So let's have a look at these, shall we? So I'm just double checking where everything goes before I start to glue anything. Aha, so I was actually sticking the legs far too high. So then, should be said that although you can now get in fact, it's worth mentioning if you didn't realise it, Weird Miniatures have now actually put, well, they started to put some instructions up online for how to build their plastic kits, and you can find these on their website. I am building these without the aid of instructions because they're not that difficult to figure out. Some of the Malifaux models I know are quite complicated. Which I think is why they've gone with the I think I've done that wrong. I think that actually wants to go. So this is the point that I actually pause this video and I go and look at those instructions. Right, I've had a quick look at the instructions online. I figured out, I think, what I've just done wrong. So let's go back and sort it. So this should be a straight leg. Whereas this one is slightly bent in a slightly provocative angle. These two both in. There we go. So I'm going to use the scalpel in part to make sure it's in place, so that she's now glued in correctly. We can leave her there to dry. On the plus side, whilst we've been doing that, she's now dried onto the base. Then we're going to move on to our final bell. That's all right. So once again, we're scraping any mold lines. And now she's ready to glue onto the base. So as with the first belt, this is the point where we break up the super glue. A small dot on her foot. You get to watch paint dry as I hold this. So we shouldn't take too long to set. Normally about 20 seconds is enough for it to obviously not set fully, but at least cure enough that I should be able to let go of it. So let's see, we should be coming up on that now. Yep, there we go. Move her to the back so she's out of the way. Bring our first bell forward. So we now have her bustle. Again, a wonderful piece of Victorian fashion here. Place her bustle on the back. I think we'll also do a hand whilst we're here. So a hand is going to come up like that. So we can see there's a small amount of leftover plastic to trim. So this is where having relatively large hands is not a good thing. Referring back to the instructions, well, I say instructions, just referring back to the box art photo, and yep, that looks to be about right. So now this bell her legs should be dry enough for us to be able to glue onto the base. So obviously our next step. What I was just doing then, just to speed it up slightly, is I was just basically heavy breathing onto the super glue. Because what that should do is add not only warmth but also some moisture into the super glue. Super glue sets when it comes into contact with moisture. That's the catalyst for its setting. So we should speed that process up ever so slightly. He says confidently, looking and realising that she's still not sticking. Oh. So obviously the issue we have here is we have small contact points for a relatively top heavy section. That unfortunately can't be helped. I suppose I could have glued the leg onto the base first and glued the body onto the leg, but that seems a counterintuitive way of doing it. So whilst I'm holding this, I shall just have to keep you entertained with my random musings. So as I've already alluded to, there is a certain aesthetic style to Malifaux that isn't, well, it's pretty much unique. The fact that you have models such as this, which are not in any way, shape or form what you would consider to be a fighter. Yeah. These aren't warriors that have been brought back from the dead or anything. These are prostitutes, and I think it's that aesthetic that draws a lot of people to it. He's got both an aesthetic and also a and I say this absolutely not tongue-in-cheek, a weird sense of humour. Personally, for me, it's a game I've been looking at getting into for quite some time. I've just never had the right moment up until now where I've been able to persuade a group of us to go in with it. I'm really looking forward to getting my first games in and to getting this crew painted. I think my scalpel blade is reaching the end of its life, judging on the amount of time it's taking me to trim some of these things. So I think when I take my next pause on a video, I'll go ahead and change that. So I'm just double checking that that fits, which it does. Spot of glue. And we've just popped off the base. That wasn't what we wanted. Well, that's annoying. So that's now set in the right position. This is the problem, because I'm just tacking these models to this base. I'm trying to use a small amount of super glue as possible, which means they're quite delicate. I don't know if that's going to hold anymore, if I'm going to need some more glue, but let's see how we go. Oh, there we go. So she's going to need a bit longer to set for that base. Now let's move back to our third one. I think you agree, Mission needs a head. One of the other things that's drawing me to Malifaux is the fact that with these being women, and also with them meant to be being prostitutes, I can paint their outfits in quite bright, quite gaudy colours that I wouldn't do a sort of standard army in Warhammer or 40k or anything in. So I'm looking forward to using some nice bright colours as opposed to a sort of, because 40k is after all about the grim dark. And then move back through to our first. You can see as I'm moving between these models, they're giving me time for the glue to dry and set. I just realised I should be doing this on camera. A nice parasol. Which again allows me to add some colour into these models. I'm thinking they will have matching parasols to the outfits, but I'm thinking that each one will be dressed quite differently. I was looking through my paints earlier to try and get an idea of what colours I was going to do the girls in. So I'm thinking one's going to have a we're going to have one in blue, and that's a sort of turquoisey blue. One in quite possibly purple. And then for the final one, I'm not sure if to go with greens or go with reds, or maybe knock it up into pink. There we go. There is our first bell completed. Let's give our second one a head, shall we? also, of course, we've got long flowing hair, which gives you the opportunity to go with some different colours. Then we've also got the rest of the crew, which I'm also looking forward to painting up. Still undecided with how I'm going to do Seamus and the copycat killer. I'm thinking head's fallen off. There we go. Yeah, so I am thinking for Seamus, I want to do him in an almost black, but then edge highlight his cloak, his coat in a like green, so it looks like he's wearing a very dark green coat. And then for the copycat, go with lighter colours so that he's in a more obvious green, so that he does look more like a leprechaun, but at the same time as we're in the same colour scheme. There she is. And just check how that goes on. That's right. So first thing I'll do with all of these, once I've finished assembling them, is I'll leave the entire crew for a good couple of hours, possibly even overnight, so that all of this glue fully sets. So again, yeah, moving between my two final bells. Yeah, so all the glue fully sets before I undercoat, so it should make them so. The last thing you want to do is get carried away and undercoat your model too early and have your model start falling to pieces. Trust me, I know that from bitter experience. So, I think we're looking quite nice for this one. All our bits taken off. exactly that. In fact, looking at it, I've just realised that our other power cell has done exactly the same thing, which is it's bent down. This is one of those things, if I'd have used super glue, it would have set straight away, but the joint is actually a lot weaker long term. So I'll just keep an eye on those two as they dry. Final section to glue. See, I've just wiped some of that glue there onto the bit where it comes into contact with the rest of her. That doesn't look quite. Ah, there we go. That's why it doesn't look quite right. I had it in the wrong place. And there we have our bottom bells. So, as ever guys, if you enjoyed watching this video, please remember to like and subscribe down below. If you want to find out more about Table Podcast, you can find out more details on tablepodcast.com. If you want to listen to the podcast itself, you'll find us on iTunes and all other good podcast providers. Just search for Table Podcast, and please remember, especially if you are in the UK, to check out our sponsor, leodisgames.com. Thanks a lot guys, see you later.